Hey, what's up? This is Mark at alchemist.camp, where we learn Elixir and Phoenix by building things. And today we are continuing to build the simple Phoenix LiveView app series. This is to build a site for my new podcast, Reactor. Specifically today, we're going to be building out live views for the user profile pages that will update automatically whenever the user information updates on them, and they'll be highly interactive. If you are new to the series or to Alchemist Camp, I suggest either going to the big playlist here and starting from the beginning, or go to alchemist.camp/episodes and scroll down to Simple Phoenix LiveView App Setup. Start there. If you're already a member and you're in a hurry, then go to the scaffolding episode, download the source code, and get started from there. With that said, let's get to the episode. So like the other templates, show is going to need to be a live template, and we need to look for links and paths. So link will be changed to live link, and this one will also be changed to live link. Then instead of instead of user path, we're going to have live path, and same thing for that one. Then instead of con, we'll make it a socket. And same thing for that one. Instead of edit, it will be user live.edit. And instead of index, it will be user live.index. Actually, these are both capital. Looks good. Now we need to make a live template for it. That will be in the same directory as the other live templates. We'll call this one show.ex. reactorweb.live or .userlive.show, and as usual we need to use phoenix.liveview because this is a Phoenix LiveView. We'll alias reactor.counts. We'll alias reactorweb.userlive and user view like we just did. We're going to need the route helpers again, so reactorweb.router.helpers as routes. And then finally, this time we're also going to need the socket struct. So we'll get Phoenix LiveView.socket. Now we'll make a render function just like the others, one-liner, render assigns, and that will call userView.render show.html and pass the assigns to it. We'll make a really simple mount function that's just going to be a one-liner as well. Not going to use a session as usual, and then we'll just return OK and the socket. We'll make a fetch function as usual, and this will make a fetch function, and this is going to take in the socket, and we actually want to enforce that it is a socket and get its assigns out of it. So it's going to have an ID in it, and then we'll save that as socket for the whole thing. And assign socket user is going to be accounts.getUser of that ID that came in. And then we're going to need a new function that we didn't need for index or for new. It kind of goes along with mount. It's going to be a handle params. And this will handle the parameters we get from the router. For example, if you go to users/show/1, that 1 would be the user ID, and we're matching it out of there. The handle params will capture an ID. Remember, it's quoted because it's coming in through the router, so it's got to be a binary key. And we'll get the URL with that. We don't need that, and we'll get the socket. If the socket is connected, then we'll subscribe to updates from the helper we made in accounts. Subscribe and we'll just subscribe the updates for that one user ID. And then no reply, socket assign ID of ID, and then we'll pass that into fetch. And with the user ID in the socket, fetch will have the assigns there and get the user ID, or get the full user from account using the ID, and we should have everything loaded. In fact, let's just save it like that and see if we can show one user. Unknown should be assigns, and we'll just go to the index and click show. That's not working, so let's take a look at it directly. So invalid result returned from mount. That's probably because it couldn't pattern match OK, the entire word spelled out. It should just be an OK. Great, so we've got a user here. And that's nice, we've got a bit faster navigation than we would with a traditional router, but let's make it interactive. Let's make it actually do something with these notifications that it's subscribed to. So one case is, say it was updated. So we'll handle info, and if what comes in is accounts and the action user updated, and we don't care about the third parameter, and then socket. Now if you're curious what that third parameter is, we just go to accounts, and we can see we're sending the module, the event, and the result. We're not going to actually use that user, but we could. That would be another way to handle it. So when we get this updated event, we just do no reply and fetch socket. So we're actually doing a fetch on the user after it was updated. That's probably not a problem unless it's something that's updated all the time. Then maybe you'll want to handle the user that was given back from the database instead of fetching, which is really easy here. It's a bit more of a pain for your listing in the index page. Then we also want a handle info, accounts, user deleted. And this time there's not going to be anything to update on the user page, so we should just redirect somewhere else. So we'll stop the current pipeline and then socket and pass that into put flash, which again is not something we're going to use right now. We'll wait till everything is stable, but I'll just type it out here. This is, or this user has been deleted. And then we'll redirect to routes.livepath, and we'll just go to the index page since that's what the traditional router does. Socket user live .index. Save that. And we missed a comma after stop. Okay, that's good. We'll comment out that one we don't really need. Actually, let's get rid of that space. And now the way to check this out would be we can keep this page open, and then we'll open another browser window, say on users. Actually, I don't want to delete myself. I'll just delete the other one. So we've got an index page open in one window, and then in the other one, we'll go to show, looking at user 2, and we'll delete user. Actually, before we do that, no, we can't edit. We can only delete. We haven't written edit yet. So we delete user 2, and then boom, we're redirected back to the index page. Looks pretty good. Last thing we need is edit. So edit.ex. This will be the most complicated one since we both have a user that will be have data shown that responds to updates, and will also be sending updates. So reactorweb.userlive.edit, and we need to use Phoenix LiveView. We need to alias a lot of stuff. We need the LiveView socket, so phoenix.liveview.socket. We also need reactor.assign accounts and the users from them. And we need user live and user view as well. User live, user view, and of course the router alias reactor web dot router dot helpers as routes. And the render and the mount are going to be basically the same thing as they were in the show, so we'll just borrow them directly and put them in. And I guess I didn't get the space on that right. We'll change show to edit.html. The mount is exactly the same. Then handle params is also the same, so we'll grab that as well, paste it in. The fetch is kind of a combination of what we had in the show and in the new though. So we need the socket, and we're going to get the ID out of the assigns out of the socket struct, like so. Keep a handle to the socket. Then user is accounts.getUser of that ID. And then we need to assign the user to the socket and a change set. So change set will be accounts.change user of the user that we just fetched. And looks like I misspelled accounts. Do that. Looks like I misspelled it multiple times, right? Because I auto-completed accounts. And there we go. Now we can borrow some things from show and from new. Let me get out of Vim mode, make that a little easier. First of all, in show, we can take these handle infos and use them directly. And that's because it's the same logic. When a new user when a user is updated, then we want to refetch that information and make sure that whoever is looking at that page sees the current information. If they're deleted, then we want to do a redirect back to the index. So we'll save that. And then from new, we can take the event handlers. So it's basically the same stuff again. Anything that would be a validation error when creating a new user is still a validation error when editing, and anything that would be an error when saving still is. So we'll copy that and put it into our edit. I guess above the handle infos, just keep that roughly alphabetical. All right, then we've got a few changes in the handle events. So instead of creating a user, now we're updating a user. And instead of saying user created, we'll say user updated, and we'll still redirect to the show page. Then in the handle event validate, instead of a brand new user, we're going to build our change set from the user that's already in the socket that we put there during the fetch. So socket.assigns.user, and this count change user, that's the same. Then instead of insert, this will be update. It also needs a user itself, and that is still on the socket. So socket.assigns.user, and then the params as well. All right, and now we'll need to change the edit.html file. And is it? Yes, it's an LEEX. We'll need to change link to live link, just as with all the others. And user path will become live path. The con will change to socket, and instead of index, we'll have user live.index. And all of this is going to go away, just assigns and the form. Save that, and does that get rid of our squigglies? It does. So let's test it out. We changed quite a few things. It's pretty easy for there to be some kind of problem or another. We'll create a new user. Actually, let's pull these side by side so we get the full effect of Phoenix LiveView. And we'll create a new user and call it ASDF, and ASDF at example.com, and no website. We'll save it. Shows up immediately, even before the refresh finishes. And actually, wait, this new should have gone to the index after the submission was done. So let's look at our index, or at our new.ex, handle event save, okay, user. Let's take a quick look at that create user. We've got repo insert, notify subscribers. So there must be a problem in our notify subscribers. Notify subscribers, error does that. Ah, okay, so the problem here is in our notify subscribers, we didn't actually pass the same form as what you would get from the input, because the input was okay and result, and we should have passed that right along. So okay and result, like so. Okay, then looks like we've also got a squiggly here because it's an arity 1, so let's do that. And we'll try out our edit again. So we've got this ASDF user, and we'll show it over here. We'll edit it over here. We'll just rename it to some user. And that worked. However, there was some flash there. Let's see what that was. We'll call it somebody. And something went wrong. Don't see any reason why anything would have gone wrong. Let's look at our logs. All of that looks fine. Let's try this again. Actually, let's stop the server, restart it. Okay, some user 2. So it was on the debounce for sure. It was on the blur. We'll try it again, and no. Don't see any errors there. Well, this is definitely being generated in the form. So let's look in the form itself. We don't actually need this because we're showing everything. We're showing the specific errors below, I believe. Actually, let me do that. Ah, wait a minute. So this is a different behavior. Yeah. So what we're seeing is we're seeing some error that isn't any of these. So if I delete this, the error will probably go away. And now we're seeing the kind of behavior that we should be. So what error were we seeing? Unknown hook. Oh, right. That's because we have a Phoenix hook for saved form. That's for JavaScript interop. But we haven't set anything up on the JavaScript side for that. And now we're not getting that behavior. But if we have no name at all, yeah, excellent. And email is still checking for bad formats. Yes, it is. With that set up, let's actually edit this user. So it is some user. We'll make it some user 2. Save that. We see the update instantly. Now we can even do something like open 2 browser tabs in edit mode. So we'll change this to Bob. And now we see the update over here, even though we were in editing mode. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. And I don't think we need this in edit ever, but we can see the full interactivity. So asdf.com, and boom, it's there. This is pretty much all the functionality. I guess we haven't looked at deleting things on the index while the index is open, or deleting a user while it's open. So we'll just delete Bob here. You can see you got kicked to the index page. Delete this other fake user, and it's gone pretty much instantaneously. Now that you've seen an example of moving all the user CRUD to LiveView fairly thoroughly, such that we don't even need a user controller anymore, next up is upgrading to version 0.7.1 of LiveView, or the next one if there's already a newer one than that out, and then on to the podcast episode pages. For those, we'll just do the user-facing parts in LiveView, and the admin parts we'll leave in the just the standard CRUD that was generated by the Phoenix generators. Till then, code on.